Hello and welcome back to Courtside. I'm Andrew Cohen, joined alongside by Sam Posman, Mike Randall. How are you two doing today?
We're doing all right.
I've been better, especially as of recent.
Yeah. Somber episode today. The NBA season is over. You may have heard the Celtics lost in the finals. Unfortunately. All three of us picked the Celtics. Even the LeBron homer over here, you know. But
in
he was
hindsight, that may have been the problem. But
I said that to Sam before we started. I said if any other team from the West made it to the finals, the Celtics would have won. I don't know, only because he would have probably been rooting for that team. So, unfortunately,
I think I went 0 for in series that like big series, except for the Mavs series.
Yeah.
I think that was the
it's
only
like
one I won.
the opposite of my NFL playoff picks this year. Oh, I was on
You
fire.
You hit him with the Kyler Murray curse, Mike.
Damn.
Yeah, that's what I did.
All right. Now, if I
wasn't on them at all.
If I had I just trust the Celtics. You know, they play good fundamental basketball. I trust them to make the right decision. Imagine how bad that would age.
When they step into their shot, you just have a feeling that it's going to go in.
Yeah.
When Jalen Brown dribbling the basketball, I just feel like good things are going to happen.
Yep. Now, here's the thing. If I ask Sam this question, we're going to hear about Andrew Wiggins for the rest of this episode. So, Mike, biggest takeaway from the series from the Warriors. We're going to start off positive today. We're going to start with the Warriors before we go to the Celtics. So, initial thoughts on the Warriors, Mike.
Makes me sick. But you got to give Steph Curry his flowers. This was the legacy moment. The one I've been going on and on about that he didn't have, I didn't think he would have, and that's why I picked the Celtics, yada, yada. He stepped up in a crucial game 4 with, I think, the best playoff game of his career. And then he closed the deal in game 6 on the road. So you have to give it up to him. We're going to talk later about where this puts him in the all-time great conversation. But it can do nothing but elevate him. This was the crowning jewel of what is an incredible resume. And he tacked on, obviously the finals MVP is like the actual accolade that he's been missing. But more so for me, it was the big moments that I very clearly stated I hadn't seen from him outside of one moment in Houston. And he delivered, I thought, 2 in a series that if he was not transcendent, they do not win the series. I completely believe that he had to be great. He had to average 30. He did. They won a championship. So, I mean, good for Steph. I felt good for some of the Warriors after I got done being pissed, which took a while, but felt good to see Wiggins win one.
Jordan.
Talk about Jordan Poole winning one because we're being positive, and I'm not going to do that.
Oh,
go blue.
Jordan Poole.
Seeing Clay standing up there after what he's been through the last 3 years was pretty good. And I think I just love to hate him when I'm rooting against him. But Draymond he's one of my guys. Like, you can't – once the dust settles, you can't not love Draymond Green. And then Iggy, too, stepping into kind of the Udonis Haslem role, but actually, being effective at it and doing it on big stages. That was good to see, too.
Being good at the sport.
It was cool to see the core 4 after what they've had to overcome the last 4 years of people writing them off and the injuries and the perseverance and be able to pull through and get another one of those titles. It's crazy. It feels like we've watched these guys grow up in the sport. In a lot of ways we have. Like, have you guys seen how young Steph looked in 15?
Yeah.
Looks like a kid. Like, it was
baby-faced assassin.
I didn't like it. I didn't root for him. I picked against him. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna look back and appreciate that I got to watch this group play together. And This was the crowning achievement, I think, for this group.
Mike, would you say that he stepped up?
Dude.
That could be taken one of 2 ways. Stepped up or effed up. Which one?
It's obviously stepped up.
Yeah, but you could use it in either context. Like, obviously, yeah, like, it makes sense now, but you could easily say, like, if he has a bad game at some point, oh, he stepped up. And you would understand. Man. You would understand.
Well,
stepped up coming into the series would have been a concert date and a bunch of turnovers in a critical game. That's what I would have called stepping up. But
I think that's called Tatuming.
It is now. Switch the definition up on him.
Come on now.
You want to hear what I have to say, Andrew?
No. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Please.
Oh, no.
What?
Let's hear it, Sam. I think we're excited.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
I've had a lot of takes about both these teams over the course of the last year.
Time out. I think I know where this is heading, and if you go there, we are going to go off on you. Please continue.
Do it.
Okay.
Andrew and I came for war today.
One of the big ones I said was that I would rather have Jaylen Brown as my number 2 than Jayson Tatum as my number 1. They got a lot of slack for it, and I began to doubt myself. But I think I was proven correct. And I think Jaylen Brown is one of the only players on the Celtics that will just lower his shoulder, drive to the rim. And does he not know how to hold a basketball? Sure. But is he probably the best player of all time that doesn't know how to dribble? Yes. I don't think there's anyone else that like, what are you going to say? Kendrick Perk? Like, he can't dribble. And that's really bad because I feel like that's never actually been as big of an issue as it was until this year. But I think he really impressed me. I just trusted him when it mattered most. I maintain that he has probably one of the more trustworthy mid-range shots in the game. I've said best mid-range shot in the game before. I trust him.
Stop using the word trustworthy.
Oh, that's the
kiss
of death right there.
No, man.
It has not worked out for you.
Okay, so that's my thing on Jaylen Brown. Andrew Wiggins. Wow. They told me this guy isn't an alpha. They told me this guy doesn't want to play basketball. They told me this guy is
not.
Just
yeah.
Stop. They told me this guy is complacent, being mediocre. And he is all of those things. But he found himself in the perfect position where he can have the male alpha prowess of freaking Ross from Friends, and he can still be an effective basketball player. This man is in the perfect situation. This is like when I can't even begin to describe such a situation. It would be like,
it's like the random guy that goes to the Patriots goes off.
Exactly. Sure. It's the Chris Hogan of situations. He's just chilling. And I love it. And I'm so happy for him. What else do I have to say? Steve Kerr. Have we underrated him as a coach the whole time? His timeouts were perfect. He was just great. Can you believe that Jordan Poole only played like 16 minutes a game? It felt like he was always out there playing big shots. He matched him well with Pritchard. He did an exhibition of coaching, really. He figured out Tatum. He figured out the Wiggins thing. He figured out who figures out Bielitsa? Only Steve Kerr could figure out Bielitsa. Bob Myers. Have we ever seen a dynasty? No. Have we ever seen a dynasty reinvent themselves halfway through their dynasty and then continue to win titles? That's what I thought.
The second greatest player of all time coming out of retirement.
Yeah.
Like that's an impressive feat.
I mean, they tanked for a couple years. Let's call it what it was. They tanked for a couple years.
I mean, Steph Curry broke his hand and then was the scoring leader, so call it what you want. But
Steph Curry could have played that season.
Hey, man.
Who was saying Steph Curry's done after he broke his hand?
No one, but people were saying the Warriors were done after Klay got hurt the second time. And Draymond lost the ability to play offense on the basketball court, and James Wiseman was a bust. Like, they were written off. They figured out the Poole thing, which worked out perfectly. The Wiggins thing, people were saying that was the worst trade like in the last 15 years when it happened. Holy airness, right? I was watching Game 4 with Mike. I was like, Mike Randall, is this what it was like watching Michael Jordan play basketball? When Andrew Wiggins is just going hard to the rim, he's getting offensive rebounds, he's out hustling every single player on the court. I'm just really impressed with Andrew Wiggins. And
that was Sam.
Also, has Draymond Green ever? What a roller coaster of a career! Dude's matching LeBron and scores rebounds and assists in the finals. Forgets how to play half the sport of basketball. Literally hits rock bottom in the finals. Gets bullied by his mom on Twitter, and then is 2 assists away from a triple double in a Game 6. Like, that's unfathomable to me. Sorry, what were you gonna say, Mike?
No, Sam. So I gotta give you credit. A lot of that was garbage. A lot of it was good stuff.
Yep.
One of my favorite all-time sports viewing moments you just brought up, and I have to just reiterate it to the audience. So Sam and I are sitting with his whole family watching the game, having a good time, and Andrew Wiggins is going off. He's playing really well. This was, what, 4, I think, game 4?
Yeah.
He had some layup that was quite athletic, one could
Oh,
say.
it was the
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Sam wasn't joking. Like, Sam literally just sees it, and his instant reaction is, he just turns to me, he's like, dude, do you think this is what it was like to watch MJ play? Like, sure, buddy. Yeah.
and that's not meant to be disrespectful. I'm looking at an
No,
MJ
it was
poster
like
on my wall
literally
right now.
like that's where your mind immediately went. You saw him fly through the air to the rim, and you're like, that was Michael Jordan. Like, he is the Canadian Michael Jordan. It was great. And everything you said about Wiggins was great.
Yeah.
We could pick apart the other stuff, but I thought your guy played great. He deserved what he got, and I think you stated that eloquently to an extent.
It really goes to show just like how important the right situation is, or how important specifically a terrible situation is. Because Minnesota was a terrible situation, and like, are you watching him in the finals and saying, "Oh, he's leading his team"? You know, he's the number one on the team. Like, no, like he was the number one overall pick. That's kind of what you hope for, but he's clearly a very impactful player, great two-way player. Show up in the series, and all the credit to him. I love Andrew Wiggins. I will continue to love Andrew Wiggins.
And the Andrew Wiggins fan quote was another all-timer.
Thank you.
You texted, yeah, that was great.
Do you want to recite it for the kids? Mike?
Yeah,
please do.
Now.
Please do.
Let me find it. Andrew, do you want to keep the viewers busy?
Okay. In the meantime,
you want me to say it? I know what it was.
Let's let Sam do it. But quickly, before he gets to that, I mean, with Steve Kerr, we knew Steve Kerr is a good coach. Like, I think maybe, is he a bit overrated because of the players he got to coach for in the middle of the dynasty? Yeah, like, I think a lot of coaches could have done that job. I'm not going to give him all the credit in the world for, a million different things that any great coach is supposed to do, but he did a good job.
I want to push back on that.
Okay.
Can I say my thing first?
Okay, please.
Stevie Kerr, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't want to. When there are a billion Andrew Wiggins fans, I will be one of them. When there's one Andrew Wiggins fan, it will be me. When there are 0 Andrew Wiggins fans, I will be dead.
Fantastic.
Sam sent that Andrew Wiggins went on to have the greatest 3-game stretch of his life.
Yep.
So
that's on me, guys.
Sam, who'd you pick in the series? Who are you rooting for?
Do you understand how hard it was to watch my soul get crushed by the man I sincerely love more than my mom?
How do you become this big a fan of a guy off of 2K?
Dude, I don't know what happened. It was because he went toe to toe with MJ.
Listen, if Nick Richards, sorry, this is a lot of stuff that's off the show, obviously, from our 2K battles. But if Nick Richards ever was a finals high level contributor, you never hear the end of it.
That's fair.
Anyways, all right, Mike, what were you going to say about Steve Kerr?
I wanted to bring this up. I think he deserves a ton of credit. That's obvious, right? But in terms of, I actually disagree, Andrew, with what you said before Sam gave us the little Andrew Wiggins soliloquy. I think you have to consider him one of the greatest coaches of all time. I think there are parts of a few of their finals runs that stand out to me where, first off, the 3-1 blown lead is not great, right? A lot of coaches don't have that on their resume, and I thought Ty Lue really outclassed him coaching-wise in that series. But in 2 of their finals, the 2 without Durant, when they were vulnerable, they go down 2-1 on the road in both series. And in both of those series, it's 1-1 going on the road. They're losing game 3 pretty handedly. They're getting pretty outplayed. And he figures something out. He made some adjustment late in both of those series. In 2015, he inserted Iggy and played the death lineup for the first time when they were down 25 to Cleveland in the second half. And they came back, and LeBron actually had to have a pretty great close to that game for Cleveland to survive the comeback. And they come back in game 4, and that series is never close again. Golden State just runs away with it. Now, the adjustment, I think he inserted Otto Porter this year. That's not quite the adjustment to the same level, but I thought in both cases, whatever the maybe more obscure adjustment was this year, he figured something out in games 3 and 4 and at the end of game 3 and as we move into game 4. And they won 3 in a row again. Like, I don't think you can overstate that. I think that's stuff that it's hard for us to really talk to and really notice, but he has now done it twice where even when it's looking the worst for his team, he's figuring stuff out kind of very quietly. And then it doesn't have to be a splashy move. I'm sure it was just a few things in the series, but he figured out how to make that Celtics defense look nothing like it had all year. He made Tatum and Brown incredibly uncomfortable. I thought the entire series, he adjusted well enough on the role players. Now, part of that, they just didn't play well. And then the other part, and this was the one I wanted to give him the most credit for, is I don't think we should overlook how unique the system this team runs is and how important that has been to their success. Not just in the ability to plug in players who haven't been successful in other locations like Andrew Wiggins. Like that speaks for itself. But I think the best example of this was in this finals is coming into the series, Boston's defense was just a tank, right? They're just rolling through teams. I know Jimmy Butler got it together a few times, but even with Jimmy Butler dropping 50, Miami's only scoring 100 points. Like the Celtics defense coming in, we were really lauding, and they completely pulled it apart. That off-ball movement that people talk about, oh, it's kind of gimmicky, like guys are just running around, like yada, yada. It really freaking works, and it seems so simple. And yes, he has the perfect personnel for it. You can't discount that. But every great coach ever has had the perfect personnel for their system. So that's a wash. But the system that he's instilled here is incredibly unique. It's incredibly difficult to guard. And if you think of all the top 5 or 6 greatest coaches, the guys I now think he's in a class with, I think his superstar that he figured out how to win and sustain excellence with was the most difficult one to do so because of his size. So Pop had Tim Duncan. To an extent, Tim Duncan is just, he's big, he's strong, he's fundamentally sound. Tim Duncan just go get his own. He's going to last. You don't have to scheme a lot for him if you don't have to. Same with Kobe and Mike for Phil. Bill Russell to an extent, I'm sure with Red Auerbach, I was even pretending to be around. And
for Bill Russell.
Yes, Sam, and for Bill Russell. But I think the Steph thing, obviously Steph's a great player. That's not to say he's not and that Steve made Steph Curry. That's not what the point I'm making, but he's a smaller guard who you have to run a lot of motion for and be really clever to continuously free him up. He can't just dominate the game one-on-one at the snap of his fingers. That's never been his game. And Steve's figured out how to implement a system with a guy that, let's be honest, the only other small guard that's ever dominated the NBA was Isaiah Thomas. And that was a completely different style of basketball and a completely different era. So I think he deserves a lot of credit. I think there's a lot of little things that it's tough with coaches that can get overlooked, but I thought his adjustments in this series and then the system he employs was not only a huge part of their success this year, but it's the reason why they've been able to sustain this. He plays behind his stars. He lets them have the spotlight. I think that's to be commended as well, but you can't just brush by. Any coach could have done that. I don't think. I think there are only a few ever that could have had this level of success with this team that Steve Kerr's been able to pull off.
I got 2 things to add, and they're really short. Don't worry, Andrew. I'll let you rebuttal. First of all, your small darts comment, pretty disrespectful to Bob Cousy. So you should know your history, my friend. Secondly, the thing about what Steve Kerr did that I was so impressed by was the biggest personality in that finals is Draymond Green, and he benched him at the end of game 4. Like that takes some and it worked, and he brought him back, and it put Draymond in his place. But like, I don't know how many coaches do that.
And Draymond wasn't a problem. The problems Draymond was having in terms of officiating and attitude and all that stuff went away after that benching. He calmed right down and played really focused, really effective basketball the rest of the series. It's a big part of the reason why they won.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. I'll give him all the credit in the world for that decision for benching him at the end of game 4. Because I mean, Draymond. Because like it's easy to say, oh, Draymond's not playing well. Obviously, like it's an easy decision to bench him, but and he's kind of the heart and soul of that team in the way Marcus Smart is for the Celtics. Like he's the big, fiery, passionate guy that you're seeing all the time, running around, playing aggressively. And so to bench, if it doesn't work, that's bad because of how he's going to react to it and handle it. And obviously, it's better when they end up winning. The starting lineup adjustment with Otto Porter, I thought that lineup got they did it in game 4 and that lineup got killed. Like they brought Looney in right away and it's like okay, and I thought they would go right back to Looney. I thought basically the key to that decision I think was they realized Rob Williams would come out early and then Looney would be in. So I think it had less to do with Porter and more to do with Looney off the bench. I agree though, the offensive system that they run is just impeccable, and especially when you've had Steph and Clay and Draymond running it now for 8 years. Like it's incredibly high level right now, and even still, the Celtics held them to 105 points a game, which for the all-time offensive players you're facing on that team, and especially Steph, and Clay wasn't Clay this series, but I still thought it was impressive. But again, great job from Steve Kerr. I just think to go over the top on this specific year coaching job, okay. I thought he was really good as he is. He's a really good coach.
Yeah. I think the Celtics defense is still great. So they were still going to be somewhat effective, but they didn't disrupt and make the best players in Golden State feel their presence or make them as uncomfortable as they had in other series. And it was a big factor.
I think they couldn't necessarily. I think part of the reason, and the drop coverage on Steph Curry was one thing, but you can't necessarily afford to constantly double Steph when you're going to kick it to Clay or you're going to kick it to Jordan Poole. And part of that is because of the motion they run offensively. Guys are getting open left and right.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're going to double Curry, guys are going to be open all over the place.
Draymond's going to pick you apart if you pass out of the double and it's a 4-on-3.
Yep.
Have you guys seen the clip of Draymond baiting the Steph handoff, and then he Jokic whip passes it, just dimes it right? I think it was Wilt Chamberlain's grandson who was cutting to the rim.
No, but I've seen the one where he pass blocked for 15 seconds and Steph 3.
That was really funny.
Game 2, Draymond got away with murder. He could have gotten away with murder. Game 2.
Yeah. Can I just say game 3?
Awesome.
Game 3 of this series was probably some of the sexiest basketball I've ever watched.
I thought games 1 and obviously the Celtics won in these games, but when I was watching game 1, and it was the refs were letting the guys play, and it was there was high level shot making. I thought it was incredible. Even when the Celtics were down in that game, I had fun watching it. Then game 2, here comes Zach Zarba, whistle every other possession. It's
and when the Celtics lose, it's always ugly. They're never oh, that was a pretty loss. It's they played ISO.
Yeah, we'll get into the Celtics a little bit more later. I think we should, before we move on to that though, get into the Steph legacy discussion.
You mean the 10th best?
So he's now better than LeBron, right?
No. Oh,
right. He's matched him on championships.
Yeah,
I'm not wasting.
And he's beaten him head to head a few times, man. No, I'm kidding.
Gonna say
obviously,
this.
But go ahead, Mike.
I'm gonna say this. I know you're just teasing me, but for those uninformed people who may be watching, go look at the difference in accolades and career accomplishments between Steph and LeBron. Just subtract what Steph has done from what LeBron has done, and what's left is the resume of potentially a top 15 player of all time. Not just a Hall of Famer. The gap between those two is a whole nother all-time great career. So
it's Charles Barkley.
We're not even, there you go. It's not even worth talking about. So,
do you know why it's Charles Barkley?
Why, Sam?
Because there's no rings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Literally,
4 minus 4 is 0.
There's the gap in 3 Finals MVPs. Not that it matters if you're the best player in the championship series or anything. It's not that big of a deal.
Moving on, Michael.
No, but one thing I want to come back to that. Now, I cannot remember what I said before the series. To me, it's winning the Finals MVP. Okay, cool. It's more about winning the championship, and he's the best player on the team. The first one, he should have won it. They gave it to
LeBron should have won it.
Shut up.
Quick sidebar.
Andrew, you then me.
One of my least favorite things that people talk about in sports is trying to give a guy an MVP in a losing effort.
If
he was the MVP, he would have won.
So I heard Bill Simmons did this. What's the take? Are you allowed to give a Finals MVP to the losing player?
Nope.
Because people are either all the way yes or all the way no. So.
Nope.
An all-time great performance when the other team does not have a player that matches any extent, if you don't have a clear-cut MVP on the other team, which that Golden State team did not, and you have a player who puts up an all-time great performance, and in LeBron's case, and this would have to be the case, propels his team past what their should be ability of the series is, you should be able to give it to him. It should only have happened 2 or 3 times in history. Jerry West got one. LeBron should have one. That might be the 2. But he was much better.
You think Jerry West likes that he won that, though?
I'm not saying LeBron probably would have thrown the thing out, but I'm saying that he was so by far the best player in that series that you can't watch that series and be like, LeBron wasn't the MVP, so by far the MVP of that series that it's kind of comical.
Congratulations, you won 2 games in the NBA Finals. You know what that makes you?
Just saying.
Jayson Tatum.
Not a champion. It doesn't make you a champion.
As the Boston Celtics just found out.
Correct. The Boston Celtics won 2 games this Finals. Indeed,
guys, remember when I told you that Steph Curry was a better all-time player than Kevin Durant? So, kind of stand by it. Was I right? Looking for a little closure here.
I got something to say, but I'll let Andrew go.
You're right.
Probably a problem.
Steph Curry is a better all-time player than Kevin Durant. It's true. And I don't know if winning this Finals necessarily is what put him over the top, but I think it puts him so far over the top of Kevin Durant, in my opinion. In sheer numbers, he has more championships. Kevin Durant needed Steph Curry to win a championship. Steph Curry does not need Kevin Durant to win a championship, as Draymond said all those years ago.
That's true. All right, Sam.
So
sorry.
I agree.
All right, Sam.
Michael.
So yes, if you're doing your rankings, you have to rank him above. But I think I'm not going to go on. Andrew just covered it, right? It's not really debatable in the criteria we use for these things. But I think the Steph Curry to Kevin Durant conversation is a great microcosm of what makes these debates so fun and so back and forth, and guys can go all over the place, because everything on paper says Steph Curry by a good chunk, right?
Country man.
But I watched them play together, and Kevin Durant was quite significantly the best player on the court every single time. That's for me, that's hard to get by. If they had never played together, I probably wouldn't even hesitate. But seeing them on the court together, and yes, Steph, maybe he deferred. He did, obviously. But that's at least something for me, and that's what can make these conversations tough in terms of trying to put guys over each other. Because Steph Curry's resume is the second greatest ever of this generation by far, right? But I've seen him play in 6 finals. He's been the best player in 1 finals out of 6. Now, what was it? 4 of them was against the greatest player of all time, so fine. But he wasn't the best player on his team for 2 of the ones that he won. He was not better than Kawhi Leonard that year when they played Toronto. They played on the court. I watched it happen. Kawhi Leonard was quite a bit better than Steph Curry. Not that he's above him in the all-time rankings, but in terms of watching them play each other in their primes, that's not nothing. So it's still I'm going to rank him ahead, because you have to, because his impact on winning and what he's been able to accomplish and all that great stuff has so far passed what KD's been able to actually put on paper that you have to give Steph his dues. But it's what makes this conversation difficult, because I sat on here and argued LeBron James is a greater basketball player than Michael Jordan because he's better at basketball, and he is. But on paper, Michael Jordan hasn't beat, right? He has more championships. He never lost. It's 1 more MVP. So I'd be pretty hypocritical if I didn't say that can't be a massive factor in how we're going to rank these. That if you have guys who, when you compare them, you have one player that is better, that you can't just completely discount it, because if Kevin Durant's born into this Golden State system, it's not like he's not going to win any championships, right? So it's still, I feel a little icky putting Steph above, but he's doubled up in championships, doubled up in MVPs. He won after he left. That, Andrew, you said it. I actually think that did put him over. I think I went and switched my list after the game because.
All right. So what do you switch the list to? Where do you have him now?
We're keeping Russell and Wilt in.
Yeah. No
so
Ben Posman.
I have him.
Shout out Ben Posman.
I think I have him at 11. I think I jumped him over Durant and Hakeem. The Hakeem one's tricky too. It's all. I mean, we're talking about nitpicking, right?
So who's 10 then for you?
Shaq. I think it's LeBron, Jordan, Kareem, Magic, Russell. Oh, who's 6? I think it's
Tim
Duncan,
Duncan?
Kobe, Wilt, Bird, Shaq. And I can't put Steph over Shaq. I won't do it. I talked about how he's now scratched the playoff moment off his list crap, whatever. He's done it once. He did do it, so you can't say he can't do it, but he did do it once. Shaq did it 3 years in a row at a level we've never seen and probably won't. Actually, that's not true. LeBron just had his strengths identity, whatever. At levels that Steph's never going to reach. So I can't put him above Shaq. Can't put him above Bird. Wilt was just too dominant. So
I put him above Shaq, and I'm proud of it. And I don't want this podcast to turn into first take, so I don't think it's worth arguing.
I put him above Shaq? No, you
yes,
don't.
Sir.
I'm proud of it. Why?
Yeah, I'm wondering.
You got to have an argument. We
you want to hear the argument? I'll give you the argument.
Yeah, we can see.
I love Shaq as much as the next guy. I think Shaq is a very underrated basketball player. You don't hear that a lot. No one gives him credit for his technical abilities. Everyone just thinks he was this guy that was just bludgeoning himself into people like a little walrus. That's not the case. He was gifted.
Incredibly skilled.
Yeah.
He was closer to Hakeem and Jokic than people give him credit for. And I hate that I just put those two players in the same sentence. So I'm just going to go revoke my ability to talk about basketball for this in my life. But moving on from that, you've heard it all before. He changed the game. I would argue he's a top 2 teammate of all time. I mean, we could go through the resume. It's unprecedented. But the thing with Shaq is the people that watched him, like I was, 3 years old in his prime. The people that watched him play, you always trust him for 46 minutes. And in the last 2 minutes, you don't want the ball in his hands. And I think that matters for something. And his finals numbers are ridiculous. I think it was 38, 15 over the course of the finals. But in a close game, I need the ability to just go get me a bucket. And I know it was a different league then, it's a different league now, but that matters. And that's literally the one thing that I'll hold against Shaq. Everything else is because of how good I think Steph Curry is, both as a basketball player in terms of just being good at basketball, but also from a legacy point of view, his impact, just what he's done. I think I've seen enough. I'm just so bewildered every time he plays basketball. It's insane. There's 3 players in my lifetime that I watch, and I don't think I can be more impressed than the last time I watched him play basketball. And he just does it. The shot he hit where he lurched forward, I think it was in the 3rd or 4th quarter. It was when they hit 3 consecutive threes in a row, and it just quieted all those leprechauns across the world.
In game 6, they hit 8 in a row.
But the one
I know the one where it's 35 feet, he just pulls up, yeah.
And you just knew it was going in.
Yeah.
It was that hurt. That hurt my heart. Anyway, he's top 10.
Andrew, respond to this because I need to. When you're
done. I am with Mike on this. I moved Steph up, and I thought he was going to be top 10, and then I looked at the names in the top 10, and I had Shaq at 10 as well. And I also just felt like Shaq dominated the game in a different way than you've pretty much seen from anyone else. Just size, dominant, and again, as you said, he's more technically skilled than a lot of people give him credit for. And you can knock him for in the last 2 minutes you need a bucket. He's not that guy. It's also positionally, the guys that are supposed to go get buckets typically in those moments are your guards, your wings.
Not when he played in the modern league, yeah, sure, but that was a postman's league.
I mean, listen, if it was that big of a deal, he doesn't win 3 championships in a row and win 3 finals MVPs.
Bro, because he had a guy that could go get a bucket, because he had freaking Kobe Bryant, a top 5 clutch player.
So if you have Kobe Bryant, then why do you need to give the ball to why do you need to give the ball to Shaq? Because again, Kobe's also a top 10 player all time.
Yeah.
So
but it can still be held against you even if you don't
But it doesn't. So it kind of goes back to when Mike was talking about Kevin Durant versus Steph Curry, and Durant's taking shots at the end of the game. like Kevin Durant's 7 feet tall and can shoot over anyone. So does Steph always need to be taking those shots at the end of games? And like, sure, we know he can do it, but like, does he
Kevin
have
Durant's
to?
taking those shots because Steph was passing out a double team. Calling what I saw.
It's true.
Calling what I saw.
It's true. So
Okay.
Steph Curry is right there, and honestly, it's the type of thing where like day by day it could change. But as of now, I have him at 11. And
That's fair. I don't think there's a wrong answer here for the record.
No, I don't think there is.
No, there's a wrong answer, and you gave it. And can I go? Because that was okay. First off, just nitpicking here. The whole Kevin Durant hit big shots because Steph passed out of a double team. Kevin Durant had the ball inbound to him, walked up, and hit a shot in the grill of the greatest player of all time to secure his first championship. Steph Curry probably went and hit in the corner. Wanted nothing to do with that possession. That was Kevin Durant attempting to shoot down LeBron James, and he did it. So I don't want to hear Steph passed out of the double team late in games. No. Everyone in the world knew when it was nut crunching time, Kevin Durant had the basketball and Steph Curry needed to get the hell out of his way.
I don't think that's an appropriate expression.
That leads into your other point. So we just trust Steph in the last 2 minutes now. Like, he's so great in the last 2 minutes that it's going to cancel out everything else Shaq did. Sam, where's the evidence? Where? What? He has one run? They were up 14 the whole game. He has no playoff game winners that I'm aware of. I think the biggest last second...
Okay, Shaq does.
I don't know if... Does Steph have the lob against the Blazers? I'm not saying Shaq is out here dropping game winners all over the place, but it's not like Steph is either. Like, there is nowhere near enough evidence that Steph is this stone-cold killer in the last 2 minutes that is what you're going to ding Shaq for. And Shaq was good in the last 2 minutes, like Andrew said. That's why they won so many championships and he was so dominant. Like, that for me cannot be the argument to put Steph over Shaq, is that in the last 2 minutes, if you need a bucket, that you want the ball in Steph's hands, because he's religiously come up short in that moment. And yeah, I'm not saying he hasn't had great games. He just had a few. I just talked about it. But what, one or two? And those weren't even really last second games either. They were making plays at the end of the game like you're expected to, but Shaq did that for a whole career as well. If that's your argument with Shaq and LeBron, Shaq and Jordan, Shaq and Kobe, Shaq and Bird, we can keep going. Guys who have deep resumes of doing this crap over and over again, sure, that can be the nitpick that pushes one over the other. But I actually don't think Steph is a go-get-a-bucket guy at all. I think you have to run action for him. You have to set screens. You have to get him loose. If you're walking down the court.
Dude, every shot he hit against Boston was just a walk down the court and hit a like. I'm not going to get us an FCC.
Was it transition? I am blanking on the shot. Was it a transition shot?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm talking about Michael Jordan strips Karl Malone in Game 6. He's walking down the court, set defense, go get me an open look. That Steph, frankly, isn't his game. And
I'm sorry that Steph Curry is not the best player of all time. He's the 10th.
Sam.
Right?
If he was so great in the last 2 minutes, why did Kevin Love put him in a straitjacket and read him his rights at the end of Game 7 of the 3-1 comeback?
That was a really good expression,
Love,
and I'm going to give you credit for that.
No separation. I could have gotten that much separation against Kevin Love. You know how? You stand next to Kevin Love and you fling up a prayer. That's the separation he got, and he danced on him for a good 18 seconds. Didn't get crap. You know what Shaq does in that situation? Posts up on
gets to the free throw line and misses 2 free throws.
I don't think he misses 2 free throws. I think he makes one at least, maybe 2. He was not a terrible free throw shooter, obviously, but there's a reason that never hindered their ability to win big games. He somehow figured out how to make enough when it mattered.
It's because he was you're not comfortable with Shaquille O'Neal holding the ball with 2 minutes left in the game. You're just not.
Or if you dump it down to him, he turns around and dunks on a guy.
Well, that's one thing. But
that's
say that
the thing.
No, but that's the thing. Like, you can say that he was dominant in the post, but you can also say that Steph Curry was dominant everywhere but the post.
But Shaq, yeah.
Right? Like, I don't think you can say one's more valuable than the other. One's literally more valuable because you get more points from it. But in terms of like a legacy point of view, I don't think you can say just because Shaq was 8 feet tall and to just like sun people, it doesn't make his ability to get a bucket any more impressive than Steph Curry's ability to get a bucket.
I don't care how impressive it is. Steph's incredibly more impressive. exponentially more impressive how he gets buckets. Give me all the easy buckets. Give me all the drop step dunks. Give me all the split free throws. I saw a stat line the other day, Shaq in the finals, closeout game or whatever. 40, 24, and 3. 18 for 39 from the line. Just disgusting. Guess what? That
Good
whole
player
front line for the team he was playing is on the bench in foul trouble. The coach is rotating bigs early. The whole team is in shambles. And he's going to make just enough that you don't – Sam, if you could play him off the court in big games religiously because of his free throw shooting, fine. That didn't happen. He played these big minutes and had big moments too. And Steph's had 2 big moments. Like I don't see that how that can be the nitpick over Shaq. There are other arguments you could probably make. I wouldn't agree, but I don't think that can be the one because Steph is not this killer. There's a reason that
I felt killed. I will get that on the record. I felt very killed.
All right, so yeah, like
it's a fantastic discussion.
Repeated examples of it. I'm not saying I said he's now done it once, but I don't think that's enough to have Steph.
So he was the best player on a team that beat LeBron James in the finals.
Yeah, he was.
So that's 2.
There weren't any like mitigating circumstances in those finals, but
yeah, because he just beat him. Like you didn't just beat a guy.
He did just beat him. He beat him. He beat Jordan Clarkson too. He beat
Matthew Dellavedova.
Matthew Dellavedova. Dude, he took down some dogs, man. I mean, those are
Can we talk about the
championships.
Boston?
Timothy
Those are
Mozgov.
championships that put weight in that trophy case.
Can we talk about the Boston
Yes,
Celtics?
let's move on to the Celtics. I want to go last here.
Andrew's ready for this one. Sam, what do you want to?
Yeah, Sam.
So I watched the game, and my initial reaction was, Jayson Tatum is wasting oxygen. And I was very sad.
He's just taking up oxygen on the court.
It was just a cardio game for Jayson Tatum.
And then I thought about it. And I matured and I let it percolate. And
great word.
Thank you, Andrew. We've had some great words. Mike had a great one earlier. I forget what it was. It was a $10 word, though. It was good. Anyway, I think Jayson Tatum, it's not that bad. We lost. And I think if you list the 5 best players in this finals, the Boston Celtics probably have 3 or 4. They don't have 1, but not like from the finals looking back on it, but going into the finals, if you were to list the top 5 players, Boston probably had 3 or 4. Now they were 2 through 4 or 2 through 5, but they had that advantage. You could say they were the better team, but I would argue the team that played together better won. What good is a group of individuals when you can have a team of brothers? And I think that's more important. I think that's more important here. And we thought that Boston was no longer this just group of individuals thrown together. But when it got to what Mike Randall calls nut crunching time, they just became 5 people that happened to be at the pickup court at the same time. And they all tried to get their own bucket. But I think they're young. I didn't think the Boston Celtics would be in an NBA championship until Tatum was 28 and Tatum was 26 and Brown was 28 or somewhere in their late 20s. No one is. It took LeBron, however, like 9 years to win his first title. It takes everyone like nearly a decade to win their first title. I think, unless you're Magic Johnson, that is. Shout out
Larry Bird.
Or Larry Bird. Shout out the Giver. And the Hick from French Lick.
Yep.
I'm not worried. I think this team they got kicked in the ass and they needed it. They now know what they now know what they have to do to win. They didn't know what they had to do to win. They just thought they could kind of like screw around and like just kind of like dawdle themselves. They dawdled themselves through 2 game 7s, one of which should never have gone to 7. The other, if they have Chris Middleton, like we're not talking about Boston in this finals.
We're not talking about Golden State winning either, just so we're clear about that.
I'm not a big fan of hypotheticals.
Me neither.
Even though I just made a hypothetical about Chris
I
Middleton.
was
No,
mad
you're
about
right.
I was mad at you for that too.
But I'm not worried. Sorry, that was a very rambly thing that I just said. I got myself kind of confused halfway through, and I forgot where the train had started, where it's trying to go. But I'm not worried. I'm disappointed. I'm sad. I'm very proud of Jaylen Brown. He has to dribble. Quick shout out Grant Williams. Everyone's trying to crap on him for doing nothing, but they never passed him the ball in the corner. Like low-key Marcus was like, when did we see Grant take a corner three?
Twice.
It was only like they stopped doing that stuff. Derek White, too many wing threes. Too many. Golden State said Marcus Smart will let you be Marcus Smart. And unfortunately, that hurt us more than it helped us. Tatum was really bad. And that's really bad. Like that, you just can't be doing that, man. And we might have vaulted him to that upper echelon of superstar, a little premature. But how I don't understand how this is the same guy that gave Giannis 46 in a game 6 with the season on the line. And then he comes out and I've never been more excited to hear that Jayson Tatum has a dislocated shoulder in the next week than I am right now. I really hope that his shoulder is out of its socket. I hope his ankle is shat. I hope something is wrong, because that would make me so much more comfortable about whatever that was. Like, it almost felt like we got up too big for that Miami game 7. And then we just kind of were like, oh, we're like, our whole goal was let's make the finals. Let's make the finals. Oh, we're at the finals. I guess we'll just go play like the early January Boston Celtics and let RJ Barrett hit a plethora of off the glass threes against us. Except this time it was Jordan Poole, and he was far more annoying. Because RJ Barrett, great Canadian basketball player. That's all I have to say. Also, great experience for Coach Ime. Shout out Coach Ime.
He's doing just fine.
Oh, there goes that man. Am I right, guys?
He's doing okay for himself.
I laughed.
Shout out Rob. Literally, that's the thing. Everyone in this finals was great except for freaking Jayson Tatum.
No.
Okay, sorry. Let me rephrase.
Jaylen
had Jaylen had some bad moments, but Rob was exactly what we needed Rob to be. Horford was exactly what we needed Horford to be. And those are the two guys where if you told me these two guys are going to be at the peak of like what you need them to be, I'd be very confident in us winning a game against Golden State. We had every height advantage at every single position. We couldn't figure it out. I have some questions. There should be some soul searching, but I'm not worried.
Is that all?
I'm still very worried.
Wait.
That was the best I'm not worried ever.
And then he ended with "I'm very worried."
Yeah, because he's clearly worried. Like that was that was awesome. You're trying to talk yourself into not being worried the whole time, and at the end you're like, screw it, I'm worried. Guys.
Sam, thank you.
No problem, guys.
Also,
I love Jaylen Brown. I'm just gonna get that out there. It's a little biased.
Of where Andrew's gonna go. I'll try not to take too much time up right now, because I think we should dive into each. There are quite a few elements of the Celtics I think it's worth talking about, because I don't think it was just one thing. Obviously, Tatum wasn't great. I thought Brown struggled at times. The whole team, I don't think, played well at times. But for most of the series, it felt to me like Boston was the better team, and they were giving it to Golden State. And I've kind of thought about it a little bit. We've had a few days since the series ended. And yes, the turnovers, in a large part, are self-inflicted. But I more and more feel like Golden State went and took it from them. And in taking it from them, was able to cause these sort of self-inflicted wounds out of, I think they took a lot of the confidence away from the Celtics. I think they shook them quite a bit. And Sam, your point, I think you said a lot of good things in that. The one thing I think I really would like to push back on is I didn't get the feeling like Boston was like doing the "we're just glad to be here" crap. Right? Like, I thought they came out locked in, determined, great game 1. That's the type of game 1 that if you're like, if they're going to win the series, that's how you started off. That was a statement game. Then you lose on the road, fine. And then you come back and you respond at home. I thought they were there. I thought Golden State, and this is, I was kind of talking about with Kerr earlier, but you got to just talk about the whole team in this sense. I thought Boston was there and ready to win a championship. and Golden State went and took it from them. And in large part did so by taking it from what we can quote unquote call the big three, even though they're not really one. I thought
they're the best three players.
I don't want to tear into Tatum because he played poorly. Because Tatum played poorly. But I thought he gave him what he had. But it looked like Andrew Wiggins took his confidence. And I don't know if that was something you would touch on or not, but that's what it looked like to me. I'm not going to try to psychoanalyze him too much, but you got that feel. And then, Sam, what you said about how they dissolved away from being this team-oriented group that relied on ball movement, and they weren't kind of this mismatch offensive stuff. I think Golden State forced them into that. I don't think Boston just came out and
fair.
I think Boston got tight. I think Golden State cranked up the defensive pressure. I think there was a couple things they figured out. We might not really understand what they were, but they somehow got Boston off of what they do well, and Boston didn't respond well. And that's the part where I think youth ended up playing more of a role than we all expected it to. Because I don't think we felt like Golden State had the capability to really, frazzle Boston in the way they did, right? Like, I thought they really came in and affected them at the end of game 3 and definitely through game 4, and honestly kind of took their heart. I thought Boston was on the court in game 6. I don't think they saw a championship.
I agree.
I think it was oh man,
that's it.
I hope we can survive on our home court. I don't think those guys were taking the court like, if you hear the 2016 Cavs team talk about their mindset for that comeback, it was, guys, win game 5. If we win game 5, there's no way in hell they take us out at home, and then they're going to crumble in game 7. And so from the moment they start that comeback, bye-bye, Sam. From the moment they start that comeback, they had the mindset of seeing it. They still saw the championship. I think Golden State eliminated that for Boston. And it was just a bunch of kids trying to hang on as long as they could, knowing that in all likelihood they were going home in short order. So I'll criticize a lot of the aspects of the Celtics here if we get more into it, but I thought you got to give Golden State a lot of credit for going and taking the championship as opposed to Boston just giving it up.
Besides the turnovers in which they literally gave it up, but a lot of those were just forced. So
well, that's what I'm saying. I think Golden State actually forced a lot of them, obviously defensively, but I think some of the kind of careless, what the hell are you doing? Like, I think they had Boston uncomfortable. I think they had them sped up and uncomfortable. And when that happens, gross stuff happens on a basketball court. It's how you win championships all the time.
All right, Cohen.
All right.
Let's hear it.
So, I mean, I could sit here and analyze every game and delve into like all these little things for why the Celtics lost the series. Ultimately, it comes down to 2 things. Jayson Tatum didn't play like Jayson Tatum, and the turnovers. Those are that's what it boils down to. Because if Jayson Tatum comes out here and he's playing extremely well, and they're not turning the ball over, like all the little things don't necessarily matter to the same extent. That's why they lost the series. Ultimately, I think it's pretty straightforward. Looking forward, I texted right to you guys after the game. They're going to be back, and the fact, and I want to preface this by saying like this was a missed opportunity in my opinion. I had them winning the series. We all had them winning the series. And I do think youth played a role, and I'll get into that. But the fact of the matter was I thought they had a really good chance of winning the series, and they didn't. And a lot of it was self-inflicted wounds, Tatum not playing well. I think that's what's frustrating about it. On the other hand, the fact that I look at this team and say there's so many areas that they have to improve, and they're so young, has me like, they were 2 games away from winning the NBA title, despite all the turnovers, despite Jayson Tatum not playing well. And all, they're young. Coach,
despite back-to-back game 7s.
Ime Udoka's first year as a head coach. All of that, like I think the future for this team is extremely bright. To me, they're the team to be. Now, team to beat in the East might not be. I mean, the Bucks are the most recent champion from the conference, but the it's them and it's the Celtics and the Bucks. Those are the 2 teams in my opinion. Now on Tatum, I have a great stat here, and I don't want to use this as an excuse, and I'll get to that in a minute after, but. Jayson Tatum, minutes played this playoff run, 983. I think it was like 200 Yeah, the most minutes played for any Warriors player was Klay Thompson, played 792, so about 200 more minutes in the playoffs. In the last 10 years, there's only been one other player in the NBA playoffs to play more than 950 minutes in a single run, and it was like LeBron 10 years ago. So it's rare to play that many minutes. And I look at it less as an excuse and more as that's something they can improve on for next year. Because there were a couple series in the middle against Milwaukee, against Miami, especially Miami, where it went 7. You felt like this could have been over sooner if they just focused in a couple of those games earlier in the series. And that's the type of thing where after this experience and working in the offseason, I think that's the type of thing where next year they have to be better. If they want to win a championship, they have to be better. And I thought for Tatum, I didn't necessarily feel like it was the pressure of the moment and the stage. I thought it was more the defensive pressure the Warriors were putting on him, plus fatigue, plus whatever shoulder injury he had. And it doesn't excuse him playing that poorly, but it's something where you look at next year and say, okay, now we've seen that defense for an entire playoff run. How does he work on getting better next time he's in that spot, play better? Because think about game 1. Yeah, he shot 3 for 17. He didn't shoot that well. And I thought he missed a lot of makeable shots this series. But he was passing the ball well early. He stopped, the passing in the last 3 games of the series was atrocious. I think also the turnovers, as we talked about, that's something that they clearly need to improve on for next year. No doubt about it. And we can get into what they can do on the roster. I think the fact is, if they bring this roster back and they make some little make some tweaks, add some extra depth, the internal improvement I'm expecting from this team after this experience, I'm expecting a lot. I'm expecting that next year they're going to come out and not be turning the ball over as much. And it's obviously easier in the regular season, but be more focused on that end of the court. Marcus Smart, this is his first year as the point guard of the team. I'd imagine he's going to get better, assuming he is also the point guard next year. Also, Tatum a year ago was not passing the ball nearly as at high of a level. Jaylen Brown takes big leaps every year. Again, it was Udoka's first year as a coach. So I think, yes, this is absolutely a blown opportunity is strong. They had a chance to win this series, but I'm looking at them and saying there's so many ways in which they can improve, and they have the guys to do it. And that's what has me hopeful and excited for the future of the Boston Celtics.
Ahead of this year, Grant Williams told us that year 3 was going to be different. His post-game presser, he told the AP that I want to get myself to a position where Ime cannot take me off the court. I've never been more thrilled to see the year 4 version of the player than I am for Grant Williams.
The fact of the matter is this: in professional sports, and obviously we're talking about the NBA here, it's really a series of tests. And the Celtics lost, and now the test is you have to come back next year motivated. You have to take all the experience from this year and use it to get better and improve. And if they do that, to me, they're the team to beat in the Eastern Conference next year.
Y'all want to hear some questions I've got?
All right, Sam, let's hear.
All right, Sam's segment by Sam.
Oh, wait, shit, that's me.
Oh, we caught him not ready to go.
All right, sorry, guys. All right, I'm ready now. I got a few here. They're all over the place. So here's going to be the rule. Give me your answer and give me 2 or 3 sentences on it. All right. I'm not gonna answer the questions. Is post play dead? Was this the nail in the coffin for just going to work in the post?
No. Actually, no. I would argue it exemplified its importance. Not necessarily for big man. Tatum really could have used a post game, and that was the step I think took LeBron over the top and made him what he is. Was the post game. 2015 was a good example. He controlled an entire series from the post.
Got to go to Hakeem camp.
I also think, and yeah. I would argue, in some of Tatum's best games this year, the post game has been one of the stronger points of his game. Catching it around the free throw line, top of the key, and going to work out of the post there has been really great for him. Also, I think, from a big man perspective, there were times when Horford I thought could have been more aggressive in the post, getting matched up on Klay. Obviously, Marcus Smart as a guard, some of their most effective offense was him in the post against Steph Curry. So I think the post game, I don't think it's ever going to be, unless you have a Joel Embiid type, it's never going to be dominant low post. But I think it's got to be utilized more in offense going forward.
So Mark Jackson.
Hold on, Sam. I know you said this would be quick, but just the last thing I want to say was, if you think about the 3 most dominant wing players in the last 50 years, LeBron, Kobe, and Jordan,
Mhm.
their best versions of themselves, they had the ability to, if they were struggling, get down on the post. They're either finding open teammates or they're getting efficient shots.
Yep.
That's
And
great.
I think really used that addition to his game.
I like that. In a less serious tone, does Mark Jackson deserve a ring?
Nope.
No, but he does deserve credit for
Yeah.
setting the defensive foundation of this group.
I
But
agree.
that system Steve Kerr installed made them the championship team they are.
I agree. Quick
Does
side
Jason?
note. Oh,
Yes.
sorry. Quick side note on Mark Jackson. Not a fan of his commentary this series.
I loved it.
Like, not a fan of the commentary from him.
I didn't get enough mamas. There goes that.
I didn't
mama,
get.
that
He
man.
gave. I think he gave one in game
Yeah,
six.
Like
Like
Steph.
he was.
It was
Steph
was-
and Wiggins should have had it. Like,
Yeah,
like
he
the
was.
last-
I think he was scared to do it. You want to know why? Game one of this playoffs when the Celtics played the Nets, Kyrie hit a three and he did "Mama,
Yep.
there goes that man." And they
Yep.
lost. And I noticed for the rest of the playoffs he was a little
on
hesitant,
edge.
to do it until the game really was done. Please
Does
continue.
Jayson Tatum have Blake Griffin disease? Can he no longer dunk?
No, did you see his dunk in the fourth quarter of Game 6? Like he had a pretty nice dunk there. Like he just had to be way more aggressive.
Yeah, I think it was emblematic of the mindset issue. And this goes a little bit to what I was saying earlier. I thought Wiggins literally just took his confidence, and part of that was a lack of assertiveness from Tatum, and it resulted in him not going to the rack the way he usually does.
Next 2 seasons, which team do we more likely see in the finals?
Out of these two,
The next 2 seasons, Golden State. I hate saying it because the Lakers are going to have to get in there at some point too.
I want to say Celtics just because it has less to do with Steph Curry and more what to do with what's around him. Like I think like Draymond will start to really age out. He's already kind of aging out. We'll see what happens with Clay. But
I chose the Warriors, Andrew. I don't disagree with that at all. I think those two will hang on long enough, and I think these young guys are going to end up being something. That or they're going to get moved. I think this team can get
that's
better.
true. That's true.
Is Marcus Smart a tough guy or a fake tough guy?
Tough guy. I don't think he's necessarily over the top with like toughness and like getting in guys' faces all the time. Like he doesn't carry himself like a Draymond Green or Patrick Beverley type. Like I think he's just a tough guy.
I think he's a tough guy. I think everything that Celtics did well got taken from him at some point because he had no dog at the end of that series. I didn't see any of it. But in the grand scheme, I used to think he was a fake tough guy. I don't think that anymore.
Is Steph Curry the hardest to judge, like top echelon player of all time since the merger?
Yes.
I'm gonna say no because I think Kevin Durant's a bit harder.
But that's really good. Now the question is he on that echelon? But that's
Steph on the echelon of KD.
Durant.
That is the question.
That is the question.
All right. Let's get this straight. Katie and Steph are still the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not
They're
doing
the same
this.
stratosphere.
No.
Yeah.
We're not doing the LeBron and Jordan.
No, we're splitting
Yeah.
hairs.
Yes.
Like
We're splitting hairs. Like
The hairs are in 2 parts. Okay. I got some trades for you, gentlemen. You know I'm always I am a whore for a nice trade. These were my knee-jerk trades.
Any like 5-teamers?
No, only 2-teamers. I'm sorry,
Damn.
guys.
Disappointed.
Already, the Maple Jordan trades are coming out. Let's play a little game called Who Says No. Wiggins and Wiseman for DeAndre Ayton.
The Warriors.
The Warriors.
The Warriors
left Thunder out of the room.
Good.
Ayton
point-
sucks. Ayton
my
is not
point
a
in all of
championship
this
piece.
was, who would have thought that we'd be saying that you would be stealing Andrew Wiggins by giving up DeAndre Ayton a year ago?
Yeah, facts though.
That's facts. Also, wait, really quickly. Earlier in the episode, when you mentioned the D'Angelo Russell for Wiggins trade, you said people were calling it one of the worst of all time or something like that, like extreme hyperbole. It was D'Angelo Russell.
Right.
Like,
People love D'Lo.
I mean, yeah, but like,
The only one I was
Okay,
saying
you know what,
was
Andrew?
sorry.
Okay, moving on.
I would like to think Wiggins deserved a little bit more respect than he was getting.
LeBron James for Jayson Tatum, straight up. Tatum gets to go play in the sunshine, not in the California state. LeBron gets his shooters, and the Celtics get their playmaker that's not going to turn the ball over. Who says no?
The Celtics say no. The Lakers say no. LeBron James says no. Honestly, Jayson Tatum says no.
No, because then he wanted to get drafted by the Lakers.
He does not want to go play with Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis.
I agree with all of that. And Andrew, the backstory to this is Sam called me at like 1 a.m. after the game, and this was a talking point. And I was like, nah, dude. I will say this. You take year 19 LeBron we just saw and you swap him in for Tatum. We wouldn't even have to watch the games. Like, series is over. But
that has to do with youth too.
Remember, you get Bronny at the end of it.
No, you get Bronny first. You trade for LeBron, then some other team
drafts
Bronny, you lose him
because Bronny goes somewhere else.
I'm telling you, Bronny and LeBron in like Orlando, 2024, 2025, whatever year.
I will say the Celtics roster build is the one I always wish LeBron really got for a sustained period of time.
That's fair.
Like if he was 24 in the place of Tatum, and obviously this is true for a lot of great players, but I think they fit his skill set and what he does really well, and they would just win every day. They would have won 6. Like, I think it fits. They fit what he does really well.
Can you hear my last one?
Yes.
The Boston Celtics, since Kyrie Irving stomped on the logo, are 6-7 at home in the playoffs. Did Kyrie Irving curse the Garden? Because this is an actual problem.
Because Kyrie Irving came to the Garden this year and lost every single time. Regular season and playoffs.
Did he curse the Garden? Is the Garden cursed? Why can't we win at home? Someone tell me.
I've been waiting for this. I wanted to talk about this.
First of all, it's a problem with this one team.
I blame Kyrie.
We're being positive today, right?
Very positive. That's what my send-off is about.
Tatum. We've been kind. I picked the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
I asked for a temporary membership.
People
I do not have any love for are the massholes who fill up that scummy arena in Boston. I will say, as frustrated as I was with the loss, and I felt bad for the two of you, the joy it brought to my heart for just a fleeting moment, that the amount of Bostonians crying in their mother's basement after that game is just impeccable. I was like, yes, some good has been restored to the world. Now, that was sort of uncalled for, but I think it's how I feel. To your point, Sam, that goddamn home court is the most overrated bullshit I have ever heard. Oh, it's the Garden. Oh, they're raucous. Oh, they do all this. It's Golden State played better in Boston. Like, they are incredibly overrated as some sort of home court, yada, yada. LeBron made a career of going in there and shutting that group up.
Made in his career when he had the help, But
dude, it's not like the Garden ever got to LeBron. His greatest game ever was in the Garden. That crowd having the chance to end his career.
Home court advantage in basketball is pretty overrated in general, to be honest. The thing that matters more going into a game is less of where it's being played and more the refereeing. Unfortunately. And that's like, I'm not saying it's going to go in and necessarily favor one team, but like how the game gets called affects, and that oftentimes does correlate with home court. I think that's what it has more to do with historically in general.
Well, then
that's fair. Like a lot of times, like Boston
aren't intimidating enough.
Boston's a better team in transition. Golden State has a more organized half-court set. When you have refs that stop the game a lot, obviously Boston's going to be disadvantaged.
You know what
Boston also plays physical. Go ahead, Mike.
The fans just suck. I'm sorry. They don't get it done. It's like the playoff version of Madison Square Garden now. The stars come to perform in TD Garden.
I might be wrong.
For all the Larry Bird ghosts in the building. It doesn't do shit.
I don't know if like the mixing thing with the sound on the broadcast was weird. The fan sounded dead in Game 6.
No, so have you ever the fans are louder when you listen to a game on like the local station for just like a regular season game.
Okay.
They
They're
tune it down.
front
Like
runners.
in general, national broadcast, I've noticed they tune it down. The same goes for everywhere.
Okay.
They knew they
It's a
were
weird
dead
thing.
and they didn't show up.
Do y'all want to be sent off?
Oh, I have a quick trade thing here.
Trae Young?
Trade thing
Oh, thank
on
God.
the topic of trades. No, we only talk about guys who are still in the playoffs and in the last round in this case.
The playoffs are over. We can talk about anybody.
No,
So
you
I'm
get
going
LeBron
to
next
after
week.
you're
Yeah.
done.
Anyways, I've been hearing a lot of slander the past couple days, and rightfully so, from Marcus Smart. What do you do with Marcus Smart going into next year? Do you trade him? Do you look to change his role within the team? What do you do? If you are looking to trade him, is it for an upgrade or just to get a different guy in? What do you do? I'll go last on this one.
That's a really hard question because the playmaking was a glaring issue, but they legitimately don't get there without him. He was a big part of their identity. He was, like you said, in many ways, the emotional and vocal leader of that team. I don't think Tatum has really stepped into that role. I think that's Smart and Horford's role. And he's effective on the basketball court. A lot of the big games that they won this series, he almost blew a couple, did blow one. But he stepped up in some big games and hit some big shots. I think it was game 3. This gets overlooked. He had like 24 points in that team. Played great. When he plays well, they play well. But the offense dissolving into what it dissolved into in key moments, I don't want to all put on him because he's not a true point guard. And he wasn't the only one that just crumbled in that position. But you either have to really rely on internal development or figure out how to get playmaking in there because it was an issue. You got to be able to run smooth sets late in games to get good looks. That being said, unless you really get the opportunity to bring in a guy that's very effective at that to the extent that it's going to overshadow the loss of what Smart brings you, you do not jump the gun. I consider him a core player, and you have to really impress me to be able to get me to move Smart out of there.
I think he's our 4th most important player. But I think it would be really hard to see this team without him. Because Jaylen and Jayson are 2 very like silent killer types. Whether or not they're a killer is a different story. But they're at least like they're the silent type, closer to like a Kawhi Leonard than like a Kevin Durant or like someone who's going to be in your face the whole time. I think the big leader on this team is Horford. And I think this is probably the peak of what Horford's got left in the tank, which does worry me going forward, right? He got to sit the first half of the season off and wasn't playing back-to-backs. So he's not going to get the rest at 36 that he will next year. I think with Marcus is I don't know what an upgrade looks like. I think so much of where the league is headed is your best player brings the ball up the court, not a point guard. The Heat do this. Even Giannis brings the ball up the court on a lot of their possessions. So I think the whole like Boston needs this true playmaking point guard narrative. I don't know if it works because Tatum's going to have the ball at least 30% of the time, Brown the other 30. So we're having a guy that's only going to have the ball in his hands for like 25% of the game. But someone just needs to slap Marcus before every game and say, "Don't be an idiot." And then he goes and plays basketball. Don't play like an asshole.
Play
and
smart.
I think we win.
Play smart.
Bingo. That's better than Steffortless. That's better than Steffing up. That was good. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying. I agree with you what you guys are saying. Like, I think if you want to get more playmaking from like a bench guy instead of like Pritchard, maybe just have another option there. That's fine. I think with Horford,
Pritchard's terrible.
By the way, I've been saying it to all playoff run. By the way, with Pritchard, like, sure he's a nice shooter, but like he lets other teams off the hook when he's on the court because the whole thing is the Celtics defense, and all of a sudden, there's a guy that they can take advantage of. With Horford next year, I think they got to bring in another big guy or two. Have Horford come off the bench a lot, manage his minutes in the regular season, see what happens when you get to the playoffs.
All right. I got one for you guys.
Go ahead.
Lonzo Ball and Marcus Smart.
Okay. I heard this one earlier today, actually.
Lonzo Ball, 10 times out of 10, 15 times out of 15. I love Lonzo Ball. Give me Lonzo Ball, straight up.
Lonzo Ball is like the mold of player that would be an upgrade for this team over Smart, where he's still, I mean, he's not as good of a defender as Smart is, but he's still
he's a good one.
He's still really good. He's switchable. He's a good playmaker. He shoots pretty well from three. He knows his role offensively better.
He shoots as well. He shoots at least as well as Smart does now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Marcus and Grant Williams for Lonzo Ball.
Oh, by the way, like on the Celtics team, like I look at the top. I look at like Tatum. They're not moving Tatum, Brown, Rob. They're not going to move Horford because they really can't and they shouldn't. I don't think they're going to move Grant. I don't think they're going to move Grant Williams either. He's too cheap for them to move.
And they love him.
And
dude, he talks like he's a freaking 3-time MVP. It's hilarious.
Oh, I love it. Like Smart would be, I think, if you were to move it. But like the fact of the matter was, I still think, and to go back to what you guys were saying with or especially saying with Tatum and Brown having the ball in their hands, more like to me, it's Smart doesn't need. You don't need to go into every game and have Smart be Chris Paul or Rajon Rondo or even in that role. You just need to have him when he is the guy bringing up the ball or when you've turned the ball over for a couple possessions. His job has to be, all right, I'm going to bring up the ball this possession, take care of the ball, get a good look for my guys. Again, he's not going to be in the position to do that all game, but when he's asked to do it, he has to be able to do it, and he couldn't do it consistently enough in the playoffs.
Well said.
All right, Andrew, one more. You sticking by your guns? If you could swap them right here, right now. Luka Doncic or Jayson Tatum?
Jayson Tatum.
Wow. Stand by your guy.
I said this when we said this before. Like here's the thing that really bugs me with how, like, and it's to be expected. He didn't play well in the finals. But to me, it's like everything he did to get up to this point. I'm not going to judge him based off the worst 2 weeks of his career. I'm not going to judge the rest of his career when he's 24 off those 2 weeks when he did just lead his team to the finals. And yeah, he didn't deliver at the end, all that. And again, like I've pointed out, there are several things that he could work on to get better next year. And I expect him to work on those things and get better. Like he did drop 46 in that game 6 in Milwaukee on the road. They came out in game 7. They won a tough 7-game series against Miami. Like he still got them there. And so if I believed it before the series, I still believe it now. I'm not going to judge him based off the worst 2 weeks of his career.
I'm going to be a bitch.
What?
No, you're not, Sam. Don't do it.
They're even. They're dead even.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait, Sam.
I vehemently disagree with everything Andrew just said, but I respect the answer.
Okay. Let me. Can I make points and then figure out what I think? Because I don't know the answer. I don't know. I think that's a better way of saying it.
Can I go and then what you think, or do you want to talk on air? You can talk on air.
I'm going to talk on air.
Okay.
All right, let's hear it.
Let's do it.
Andrew, I get what you're saying. You can't judge him off the 2 weeks. His worst moment. But wow, to have your worst moment at your most important moment, that is, unforgivable is not the word, but it's unignorable. I think that has to be taken into account.
Yeah.
Recently, I've thought myself a little algorithm. I call it an algorithm. I used to be a big, I need your defense. I need what you contribute defensively. I weigh that just as much as what you contribute offensively. And then I realized that was ridiculous and stupid because defense isn't as important. So I need your defense to be 35 to 40% of what you contribute offensively. And I think the Dome Boner does that. Like, what he does offensively is so far greater than what Tatum does offensively compared to the difference in their defense, if that makes any sense. Like, that gap is just so huge that if Tatum went out and scored 35 a night, I would lose my mind. I'd be so happy. And then to see if he adds 12 rebounds and 9.5 assists and a game winner, and that's just like a Tuesday against Memphis for Luka. Luka's better than Jayson Tatum. And I got there now that I've verbalized my argument. And that's not a slight on Tatum. It's like what you were saying, Mike, like Michael Jordan, blah, 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 Steph Curry. Like, yeah, you can't compare them. They have different roles. Yeah. I'd rather plug Tatum into like he's closer. It's like Kawhi and LeBron. You like that, Mike? This is your thing.
No,
Kawhi,
I actually really agree with that. I think those are to the extent you can make comparisons to like the upper echelon of this era, those would be the two.
yeah, like Kawhi is the guy where like if he's the only guy on a team, like you're gonna have a good team. But if you plug him into a system with a bunch of good guys and he's your assassin, like that's terrifying. With Luka, you put him on a team with freaking Bertans or Tingus and Spencer Dinwiddie is dragging him to conference finals and he's beating what people say is the ultimate winner who's never won a final. So that's ridiculous. But I think it's Luka. Only because the value of offense is just so much higher than what Tatum brings defensively. Sorry, Jason, I still love you.
Okay, so Andrew, I completely respect the argument, and I actually want to speak to that point on Tatum real quick. I before the series was Luka. I personally, I don't want to disrespect Tatum in the sense of saying I don't think it's close in the sense that I think it pretty firmly is Luka Doncic, but that's not to say he's a significantly better player. Just he's enough of a better player that I think logically the answer would be him. I just pulled it up. I'm going to speak to Tatum on a second, but for reference, Luka against the same system with much less support surrounding him went 32, 9, and 6, and that was them slowing him down. Like that, we were talking about this is the worst Luka's played at certain points. Tatum couldn't have dreamt that up in that finals with what they were getting up into him with. So I don't want to degrade Tatum. It's similar to when we were talking about LeBron and Jordan, to the extent that that's the way high end of this. But I wasn't there to degrade anything Jordan had done. I just think that what LeBron is as a player can put together on his own and as a collective is supersedes what Jordan could do or what Tatum can do. Andrew, to your point about not judging him on the worst 2 weeks of his career, I'm okay with that in the grand scheme of things. I would be an utter hypocrite to come on here and bash Jayson Tatum's legacy, say you can't recover, because the player I consider the greatest player of all time had the worst final series a great player's ever had. So I think Tatum's now at a point where this is on his resume. It's not going away. A lot of great players have had him. It's now how you respond.
Yep.
And the argument I've made for LeBron repeatedly is out of, let's say, the so-called ashes of that performance came the greatest 10-year stretch of basketball I think we've ever seen, and I don't think it's close. So I'm not expecting that to come out of Tatum, but if he responds and wins a couple titles, it was growing pains. More than likely, this is going to be growing pains. Now, I don't think he wins 3. I don't think he wins 4 because I think Luka and Giannis are going to dominate this era, but I think he can get a couple, get 1, get 2. So the finals, Sam said it very well. You can't ignore it. If you're splitting hairs, I think they literally played the same team. Luka played him one round, Tatum played another round. It was close going in. Luka played that team much better. So it's something. It's not everything. My argument's still based around what they've done outside of those 2 series. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to ask you to see where you stood, and I'm completely fine and respect that you're sticking with your guy because I'm with you. I think more than likely this is just growing pains, and he's going to respond to it. But I think he can respond all he wants, and he's still not going to be as good as Luka Doncic.
That's the thing. I'm expecting him to respond. Like if he's the guy who I think he is, he's going to respond, and I'm building that into my argument. So
that's fair.
That's my guy. All right, Sam send off by Sam.
Got a good one today, guys.
Please don't be soccer.
It's everything but soccer.
Hot damn.
Andrew, you're a Jewish man, so I don't blame you for not knowing this. But in Catholicism,
good start.
In Catholicism, when you've been bad, you go to the priest, you confess your sins, and all is atoned. You can agree with the premise all you want that you go murder a man. You tell a priest you murdered a man and you're exempt from hell. That's a different conversation, one far beyond my mental capacity at 11 o'clock at night. But that's the premise I'm going with now. I have a list of confessions, but they're actually just apologies that I'm going to make to different people. The first one was to myself. I told myself that Carson Wentz was a good quarterback. He's not.
No way. Wait, no way.
The stuff coming out of camp, and then you go back and you're like, oh, maybe good quarterbacks don't just fumble the ball when they panic. Or maybe good quarterbacks know how to, like, make throws, period.
Sam, you know, I just made the analogy about LeBron having like the lowest of lows and then responding with the highest of highs. Carson Wentz had the highest of highs and responded. Like, he responded with everything he could possibly respond to completely eliminate anything he built up that 1 year. And you finally coming around to that back like 6 years later is phenomenal.
I don't know if I'm off the Wentz wagon, but if there's a covered wagon on the coming by me, I might get a different ride.
Okay.
Next up, I'd like to apologize to Jimmy Butler. During the Heat series, I said this man's a foul merchant. I would give my left nut for Jayson Tatum to be a foul merchant. That man doesn't know how to go up strong if it hit him across the face, and Draymond did a multiple amount of times.
Yeah.
Man had no free throw attempts in Game 6. All Buddy does, is like Euro steps that take him 8 feet away from the basket, followed up by some like blind baby hook layup because he's scared to touch freaking Jordan Poole in the post. I'm sorry, Jimmy Butler. I'm sorry we said Jayson Tatum's better than you. I'm sorry I called you a foul merchant. I wish my guy was. I take it all back.
Do you think Jimmy Butler's better than Jayson Tatum?
I'd rather have. We'll get to that later.
I think they could have won that. Andrew, overall, I'm probably going to roll Tatum. I think mentality-wise, it would have paid to have Jimmy in that series.
Okay, I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, mentality-wise, but
because I think mentality-wise, he would not have let Wiggins and Draymond affect his play the way Tatum clearly did.
Sure.
But overall, yeah, I would go Tatum.
I'm sorry, Rob Williams. I'm sorry I said you were soft. You're not. That man came back stronger. Wow, I loved that. Wow.
Okay.
Greatest thing to ever come out of Texas A&M. The one good thing come out of Texas A&M, but the greatest damn thing to ever come out of A&M. I am so proud of that man.
Not Von Miller or anything.
All right.
That's it.
All right. Wait. Really quickly on this. So we were having lunch together when the Rob Williams NCL news came out. And one of the first things you said was, here goes Rob again. Getting hurt when we need him. And I'm like, it's a freak injury. But I will say this. He did prove a lot to, I think, a lot of people by playing through the injury this playoffs. And because I think most people who are in your line of thinking that he's soft, because the thing is, he didn't miss random games this year. Like that to me is a sign of softness, is just missing games for no reason and missing extra time. But he proved to all of you guys, no, I'm going to play through this knee injury. I'm going to do my best to lead us to a championship. And he played his ass off. So.
Opposite apology. F you, Isaiah Thomas. Boston Isaiah Thomas.
Oh, no.
Boston Isaiah Thomas.
No. You're not doing this right now.
No. Stop. You know what the last thing this Boston team needed right now ahead of Game 6? It was doubt. It comes out that the Celtics tell Rob Williams his injury won't get any worse if he plays through it. You know what Isaiah Thomas tweets out?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that before. Really, IT? You've got these guys' backs and you're out here putting doubt in their minds. F you, Isaiah Thomas. I'm sorry we never got here with you because you don't play defense, and I'm sorry. And I probably just lost a lot of Boston friends, and that's okay. But that is not what the team needed. He could have waited 26 hours to post that. F you, Isaiah Thomas.
I mean, I wasn't happy to see that, but like, he's not wrong. So.
Next up on my list of apologies. Mike, you're going to like this. Kawhi Leonard, I'm sorry I hated you for all those years.
Yes.
I hated it. And a lot of that, admittingly, was because your fan base cheered when Kevin Durant went down, my Longhorn legend. And that made me sad. And it stabbed.
I just realized why you go so hard for Kevin Durant whenever we talk about him. I totally forgot about it. Maybe I knew that in the moment
I
too.
reminded about it too, like mid-year. He brought it up, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. It's the one like a successful athlete that school's produced since like we could remember things."
Sorry, Kawhi Leonard. I'm back. You're back. I think you're going to do great things with Paul George. I think you're a finals favorite out of the West next year. I'm sorry.
That is a scary ass team.
Finals next year. Very early prediction: Clippers Celtics.
Bucks.
Clippers Bucks.
The Bucks would be favored in the Celtics series. Celtics will beat them.
Lakers Bucks.
Okay.
Lakers in 6. Oh, Sam, by the way, by far the worst part about this finals is that I now have to treat you to a nice lunch.
You do.
This sucker texted me in November, Warriors over the field. And I said, bet. And this freaking won. Unbelievable.
Best take I've ever had.
That's going to be the worst Chipotle burrito I've ever eaten in my life. It's going to taste like plastic.
You want to hear my final apology?
Yes.
Hear it.
You're not going to see this coming. Stan Kroenke.
No!
No!
No way!
I'm sorry. He just came out and pledged $215 million to Arsenal for this summer.
What did I tell you? He's not a cheap owner.
Yes, he is. That ras bastard. He let Alexis Sanchez. He let Mesut Ozil. He let frickin' Henrik Mkhitaryan. He let Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. He let Alexander Lacazette all walk away for free. These are generational talents. Walk away on a free transfer.
You're apologizing.
Yeah, come on, Sam.
He's a cheap owner, but he's turned his ways, and I'm grateful. We brought in a new attacking midfielder. We're looking at Yuri Tillmans, Gabriel Jesus. I'm very excited. Yeah, right, Andrew? You like Gabriel Jesus.
One of my favorites.
One of your favorite Gabriels in soccer. So, yeah, Stan Kroenke, I'm sorry. But thank you also. But you're on thin ice still. But I'm sorry.
That was fantastic.
That was pretty good.
We had Carson Wentz, Jimmy Butler, Rob Williams, Kawhi Leonard, and Stan Kroenke.
The Carson Wentz and Stan Kroenke were phenomenal.
Yeah, I was not expecting that.
Phenomenal.
I'm impressed by the Rob Williams one because I was going to mention that to you at some point at the end of the cell because you were doubting him before the playoffs, but the other two for sure. The Carson Wentz one just out of nowhere.
That was great.
That was great.
You can drive by.
Mike, do you have anybody you'd like to apologize to in the sporting world?
Who would I like to apologize to? No. I was thinking maybe Steph, but I was well-founded with my claims. Just kudos that he answered the call, but I'm not apologizing for saying he sucked in big moments, because he has. Now he's had a couple. That's adorable. Do it for a decade, and then maybe we can talk about you and this other guy who was born in Akron, but it's never going to happen.
They were born in the same hospital.
Do I want to apologize to? You know what? I do. Jordan Poole. Now, so here's the thing. I want to apologize for everything I'm going to say about him for the rest of his career. Because I watch him play basketball. And I'm never like, this is a guy... I'm never scared of Jordan Poole on the basketball court. Like, let's be honest, outside of those 2 half-court shots he hit, he had a very minimal impact in this series.
It wasn't great. No.
Like, he was not very good. He played a fine game. I thought in game 6, he took some horrendous shots that he banked in like a fadeaway 35-footer.
He misses so bad, he banks it in. It's crazy.
People forget that right after he hit the half-court shot in game 5, he came out on the first possession of the next quarter, like 5 seconds into the shot clock, shot up a 35-footer and airballed it, effectively just like erasing the half-court shot off the board. I don't know. I watched Jordan Poole play, and I just think his shot selection is terrible. And so I want to apologize for all the things I'm going to say about Jordan Poole for the rest of his career.
You're a better man than me, because I'm going to I'm going to jump on him any chance I get. I'm not apologizing for it.
You'll probably never hear me apologize again, but he did just win a championship, so I got to give him some credit.
All right. I have one shout out and a couple somewhat blasphemous things to say. I want to.
Okay.
Whatever. The shout out. We got to acknowledge Draymond Green playing some of the worst basketball someone's ever played in the history of the sport for 3 games.
Yep.
And then it coming down time to decide who wins the title and completely flipping the script and playing I would say, for what he does in his role, a dominant Game 6.
Yeah.
He was probably the second, maybe the third, because Wiggins had a good Game 5 too. But
I think he was the second best player in Game 6.
Yeah, you could definitely argue he was the second best player in Game 6 in a closeout game. So, quick shout out, Draymond. Then a couple things. One, this is gonna sound weird. I want you guys to take on this. The Warriors have won the NBA championship. Deservingly so. They outclassed a very good Boston team. They beat one of the best individual players and systems in the league in Luka Doncic. Beat a banged up Memphis team. They did all that. Steph played great. They're the champs. I don't actually think they're that good. I like it. I don't see this team and be like, champion. Like, they carry the weight of a champion. I'm like,
I mentioned this
to another
Mike.
one, man. Like, come on. They shouldn't do another one.
Mike,
Well, let me finish the blasphemy. To roll the point over, I'm going to the grave. 2018 Cavs beat that Warriors team in 6 or 7.
I'm not
Don't engage. Don't engage,
better.
Sam. Do not engage.
I'm not addressing
So much better than anyone else on the court. He would control the pace. He dropped 51 in the first game to beat Kevin Durant there to bail them out, and Steph would go frazzled up, and Jordan Clarkson had a
Sam,
series of his
respond
life.
to his first blasphemous statement.
Now that Mike is done talking to a wall, I will respond. I understand what you mean by that, Mike. And I think a reason for this is because this is probably the first finals in a very long time where the debatable best player in the world wasn't in it. So there was no
That's a good point.
That's
actually,
a great point.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
So it felt like we weren't watching this, like, well, obviously Steph Curry is like a pantheon guy, but there's no like, oh my God, Giannis, oh my God, LeBron, oh my God, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, like that guy wasn't there, and it felt bizarre. It felt like both teams were really flawed, and it felt like it just felt weird. It felt I don't think watered down's a fair word, but that's almost the word that comes to mind.
I'm good.
I look forward. I look forward to
describe
seeing Giannis in the finals again and LeBron James in the finals again.
The way I would describe it is just felt like it lacked a certain gravity.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
The moments felt smaller than they were. Right. And I personally think that you said it really well. I think the big factor there is not having LeBron in the finals, but KD and Giannis, and to an extent. But that's probably a good response to why. But I feel the same way.
That's true. I think the majority of people though say that they preferred this finals to last year's for whatever reason. Maybe it's just timing. Like this one's in June as opposed to July, where people are just used to watching it in June. Maybe that's what it has to do with. I think it has to do with the fact that this Warriors team, you stack them up against all the other teams during the middle of their dynastic run, and it doesn't really compare. I think that's kind of what it has to do, because you've seen this Warriors team in a better form. Like when I was watching like the Patriots beat like the Rams at the end, I was like, this is still a really good team. Like they're a championship team, but it's like 2-3 years ago that team was so much better.
Yeah,
like I think that's also a part of it too.
That's what it feels like. It's one of those where you feel like if you lined up the recent champs, that they don't stack up the way, I don't know. It's a hard thing to place. I was just curious what you guys thought of it. I mean, obviously with you guys not arguing the 18th, I'm assuming you agree because it's just logical. But
I think it also has to do with on the Celtics. Like Tatum didn't play well. Like it wasn't like it's Steph versus Tatum. I mean, Brown had a couple really. I think he was great in Game 6 too, but like you didn't have like that one, and that goes back to last year too. Is Giannis versus like Chris Paul, I guess.
Yeah.
You know,
You also didn't have like Steph closed game 6 well. The whole Warriors team did.
yeah.
Game 4 closed pretty well.
Ga-
But you didn't actually have like a
I feel
1-2
like
point game that went deep.
Game one was the best game of the series, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would
Because I thought what happened at the end of that game was the Celtics went on their run. I mean, the Warriors didn't respond, but I think it was like the shock value of it. Like people were coming out of the game, it's this is like maybe not an all-time game, but it's like you see this game and you get really excited for the rest of the series. I don't think any other game really got there.
And there were no end of game put it away moments like Giannis had with the alley-oop in the block last year, like LeBron had in 16, like KD had in 17 and 18, right? So I don't know, but
if we're splitting up blasphemy, and this isn't blasphemy, I have one thing I want to say. And Sam mentioned a hypothetical early in the show. I hate, and this is a big like Twitter, social media thing, hate the hypotheticals. Like the Celtics wouldn't be here if Chris Middleton played. And it's like
that's fair.
That may or may not be fair, but the fact of the matter is that's what happens in professional sports. Because if everyone was an absolute Iron Man, like the same team would win all the time. Like injuries happen.
Yeah.
And the whole series, because I think people want to say, if Middleton like the game series went 7, if Middleton plays, the Bucks win. And that again, I think that's not totally unfair. But I also again say like I don't know, like the Bucks are up 3-2 and they had the guy who's the best player in the series at home. Like I don't think you can take it away from the Celtics. Like I mean the Bucks run last year, like how quickly we forget. Everybody for the Bucks run last year was pointing to injuries and all that. Like
that's true. That was going into the finals last year. The narrative was like this is the biggest asterisk championship ever because both teams that were there.
Yeah.
But we're all literally to the extent that you can use a hypothetical and make a real case out of it. Like the Middleton thing, I believe it, but it's a little, but like LeBron in 15 had he had Kyrie Irving. Or like if Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are healthy last year, like there's some stuff where you're like pretty definitively probably that's the case. Both teams in the finals last year entered the finals with decent arguments that you could make, to the extent you could make great hypothetical arguments, they were there.
Exactly. But at the same time, like, and you see it all the time with championship runs trying to delegitimize them. It's like, LeBron's bubble run. Like, let's see the teams he played. And it's like
that's
why?
True. And
we don't need to do this. Like, the fact of the matter is they beat who they played. They got to a certain point, won, lost, whatever. But hypotheticals in sports, trying to be intentionally negative. Like, if you're a Bucks fan trying to go into next year and saying, if we have Middleton, we'll win that series, and I feel confident. It's like, okay, yeah, fine. But if you're like, if you're just trying to hate on a team, say, they didn't play anyone, them. Discredit them. Like, I don't have any time for that. Do it on your own time.
There's a YouTube video. I forgot who made it. Might have been Barry McCockner.
I think you mentioned this before.
Yeah, where he goes through and he puts an asterisk on every NBA championship ever. It's fantastic, but almost all of them have like a real one where you're like, really? Like that is a very like legitimate asterisk. Like stuff happens. Freaking Patriots built the greatest dynasty of all time off like a ton of bullshit that you could easily go back hypothetically and take away 5 championships.
Yep.
But hey, if Carson Wentz doesn't get hurt, they're getting one more though.
Sam. No.
Don't jump back on the Wentz wagon.
No. Did you hear what I said? Did you listen to me?
No.
I said if Carson Wentz doesn't get hurt, the Patriots are getting one more.
That is movement right there for me, my friend.
That's big progress.
And you know what? I agree.
Big progress.
I agree. But again, like
sorry, I'm back, guys. My Wi-Fi kind of pooped itself.
Oh, it's fine. We're just talking about how I and Mike agree with me, hate hypotheticals to try and discredit teams in professional sports.
Yes, it's terrible. Like saying that the 2018 freaking Cavaliers do vile things to Golden State.
Absolutely. That's a great hypothetical.
That's a little different because I think it's a more fun argument. Like, let's take teams from different eras. Like, but if I agree. That's not trying to discredit anyone. Like that's. I mean, maybe it's trying to discredit the Celtics. I don't know, but it's like this. The specific one for me that's actually pissing me off more is the oh, if Jimmy Butler was healthy, the Heat would win that series. And it's like,
Yeah,
I'm
that
sorry,
one.
that entire team disappeared for like 3 or 4 games in the middle of that series. Like, I thought the
I
Celtics,
agree with you.
you know,
The only one that I've argued quite a bit, not being the Golden State fan that I am
Yep.
not, is the 2015 one.
yeah,
It's pretty blatant. But for the most part, I'm with you that the name of the game in professional sports is who gets breaks, who's healthy at the right time, and who's hot. See, like the best team in baseball, like ever won the World Series, like whoever
no, baseball's always
gets
like,
lucky.
yeah,
Like it's weird.
whoever gets hot. Baseball is really the sport of getting hot at the right time.
Yeah, whoever has a hot bats and the best middle reliever who you've never heard of, like wins the World Series every year.
Yep. So that's not blasphemy, but that's something that's been bugging me over the past few days. Like, we don't need to do that. Sam, any last words? Good. All right, let's end it up there.
Did you inhale helium while your screen was?
Yeah, no, I got nothing.
Sam, I think we should live stream a courtside pickup game
Oh, that'd be electric.
at your house
That would be electric.
on the crooked hoop with King Jammer. Andrew can come up for a weekend.
All right.
That'd be so fun.
Oh,
Let's end off. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to eat the Tatum ruffles. Jayson Tatum didn't want it to happen.
It's all right.
Oh, real quick. This is my last thing.
Yeah.
Can I shout out Klay Thompson for him actually absolutely putting Jaren Jackson Jr. in a coffin?
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that was awesome.
That was amazing. My whole problem all series is Memphis is walking around with their like stank faces on, like we've done something. And
Yep.
State buried him and was like,
Yeah.
this clown was
Yeah.
That part, by far the best part is he didn't remember his name. Because Jaren Jackson.
Well, no, I think
so disrespectful.
No, I think he remembered his name and intentionally did that. That's how I think.
Well, then that's even better.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's even better because of that.
How, like, that he's like, I'm not even giving this dude's name
Yeah.
the time. Like, I'm not even saying his name. He doesn't deserve it.
Oh, I love moments like that in sports when it's like the callback to some sort of disrespect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Ja like tweeting, like responding to fans who said the Grizzlies would have won the championship if he had been healthy. Come on, man.
Hypotheticals.
Hypothetical.
Oh, I've got something to add that
Okay.
isn't me just doing helium. I have no problem with what Clay said about Triple J. What Draymond tweeted about Jaylen Brown. He said the energy has shifted, and then he put like 4 times in the bottom tweet.
All-time a-hole comment.
All-time asshole comment. Like, I love Draymond. I'm very much with you, Mike. Like, you love to hate him, you hate to love him. If someone's not directly targeting you and they're just trying to internally self-motivate, don't touch that. Like, you got no business doing that. Like, that's just, you won. You didn't lose. You won. Congrats. You hugged each other after the game. Don't be a dick about it.
And Jalen said it in like January too. Like
yeah, exactly.
It was literally just for the team and the fan base.
Yeah.
That was about like, we are a shit team. We're the 10th seed in the East. Not, we're coming for Draymond's neck. Like,
exactly.
The funny one was him wearing the banner 18 shirt and like writing in Sharpie on it, like not this year.
Yeah, that's good. Like, that's fine. But like, did at any point this year did Draymond Green use the Celtics saying the energy shifted his motivation?
No.
Yeah, right.
He did not use it in this series either. It wasn't
exactly.
These guys said the energy shifted. We got to show them the energy didn't shift.
It's like, no, the energy shifted. They're here. Still one of the greatest single season turnarounds I've ever seen. I mean, they didn't finish the job, but like,
one of my favorite trash talk moments ever now is Draymond Green telling Grant Williams he wants to be him and then going 2-3 and fouling out. It was impeccable.
Yeah, like,
that was awesome.
What did he call? Did he call him like a doofus or something? He called him like
a bozo.
He called him a bozo. Like the name, yeah, like.
I love Draymond. What a guy.
Yeah. All right, I think we should end it off there. Thank you guys so much for listening. Celtics will be back next year. But the offseason is upon us.
And Courtside will be back next week.
Courtside will be back. And it'll always be back. Potentially with a special
King-
guest.
With
King Jammer.
Lakers talk.
God.
A long layover, boys.
You know what?
Back.
I said when the offseason comes, we can talk about the Lakers. It's the offseason. We can talk
No
about the
worries.
Lakers.
The Lakers already lost their number one offseason target.
By the
before it
way,
even started.
quick, sneaky, great playoff moment was when on ESPN's NBA show, they tried to talk about the Lakers head coaching search, and Richard Jefferson and Kendrick Perkins were at the table and were just, oh my God, we're not actually doing this. Is not real life. It was absolutely true.
Steph doing this to KP after the game and press conference, that was pretty good too.
All right.
This was definitely a Kendrick Perkins stock down playoff run.
No. This is a stuck up playoff run because, like, his takes. All right, say what you will about his takes. Entertaining as hell.
Andrew, what does Kendrick Perkins stock mean for LeBron's legacy?
Everything always hurts LeBron's legacy. That's what you have to learn. Is everything in the world,
everything hurts it.
Always hurts it.
The level of damage he just sustained by sitting at home and watching Steph Curry win a championship is like incalculable.
Yep.
He dropped all the way from number one ever to
Wiggins single-handedly moved LeBron James down the list of all-time greats.
How does Joe Biden falling off his bike affect LeBron's legacy?
Joe Biden fall off his bike?
Yeah, they were on like a bike ride. Him, his wife,
Jack McKinney style.
No, it was like he thought his foot. He had like, you know how like old people don't have like the clip-in pedals. They have like the foot basket that just your toe goes into.
Yeah.
Yep.
He got out of it on his left, and he thought he got out of it on his right. So he went to put his foot down, which naturally just pushed the entire right side down. And Buddy like was at a complete stop and then just timbered. Yeah. And you hear everyone go, ah! And then you hear him go, I'm good.
Tough moment. That's
it wasn't great.
It wasn't great, but he got back on his feet.
Exactly.
Falling on the steps going up the planes.
All right, let's end it up there.
Wait, hold up. No. We're adding a segment.
Adding a segment, okay.
We're gonna do this all together. What are the top 5 presidential mistakes in a meme format? So not like the invasion of Iraq.
Yeah.
I think number 1's got to be John F. Kennedy wanting to be in a convertible. I think that's just automatic number 1.
What's it with you today, dude?
All right, guys, let's end it off there. Thank you guys so much for listening to Courtside. Back next week.
Real quick, I have to respond though. The best one is Trump with what looks like a dead cat on his head, like blowing.
I would also say the Four Seasons, where they were supposed to have like the big the election was stolen press conference at the Four Seasons Hotel and ended up at some random
landscaping company.
The biggest meme moment as a country was electing that doofus president.
Oh, it's absolutely,
But the social media and late night show content he provided for 4 years will never be touched. Like,
oh my God,
the nightly monologues from Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel were awesome.
Every day.
It was like, what idiotic thing did the president do today?
And it's like there's always like 5 to choose from.
Oh, I was like getting I couldn't believe how much content there was on a day. Like, the dude just didn't have a Tuesday where he's just in the Oval Office just chilling. They didn't have to do anything. Just there was always something. It was great.
All right.
Number 2's got to be Mary Todd dragging Abe to the theater, right?
What's the matter with you?
I am all right. We are going to end it off here. Final word.
You said memes, and then you're like,
we're going to end it off here. Thank you guys so much for listening. NBA offseason content is on the way. We might have a Sam driveway basketball match at some point. Thank you guys so much for listening. Subscribe if you've enjoyed. Leave a like. We really appreciate it. Be back. More offseason content. Thanks, guys.